Hey guys, happy Tuesday. I am just getting ready to go to my daughter's Thanksgiving lunch right now. I'm a little under the weather, or at least recovering from being under the weather. So sorry my voice sounds like this. But I wanted to hop on because, oh my gosh, have you guys watched the documentary, The Exposed Ghost Town Train Fires? I watched it last night and it is absolutely insane. Once I got to the third episode, I was like, whoa. I kept on pausing and just being like, whoa, like mind-blowing stuff. And it actually made me think of a lot of different things when it comes to like blind trust and trusting things like authority figures in your life. So basically what happened, if you guys haven't watched the show, I won't give any spoilers, but these children were at an amusement park and there was basically a fire that happened in the ride, and tragically the children, sorry, I've got something in my eye. The children tragically passed away, and the police immediately ruled it as an accident, and nobody asked any questions. And so now it is 30 years later, and all these documents have been unsealed, and they're basically uncovering all these different things of corruption, and the kids were just collateral damage. And it just made me think about a lot of things in life. Hold on, let me grab a towel. What did I do with that towel? It just made me think about a lot of things in life and how we blindly trust authority figures and how we should ask more questions. So I'll give you an example in my life. So the other day I was having a debate with this girl, and we were having, a good debate, how debates should be, respectful, exchanging of two ideas, differing ideas of people. And, it was fine. And I said something along the lines of, when something is amiss, you probably should start to ask some questions. And I spelled amiss, A-M-I-S-S. Well, the person came back and they said, certainly, if something is amiss, you should probably ask yourself some questions. And they spelled it A-M-Y-S-S. And I looked at it and I was like, wait a second, is that how you spell amiss? Oh my gosh, I'm such an idiot. Like, I must have been spelling amiss wrong my whole life. This person who I was having a debate with, they're a lawyer. And I was like, certainly they're smarter than I am. And, I think I value their opinion and I think that they're smart. And I just completely accepted that new spelling of the word based on the value that I had put around this person and their intelligence. And I just completely threw out my spelling of the word. Well, a couple of days later, when I was on Instagram, I saw somebody else spell amiss, A-M-I-S-S. And I was like, wait a second. So I went and I looked, and sure enough, I had spelled it correctly the whole time. But it was just wild at how quickly I was willing to throw out my own knowledge, my own opinions, and my own thoughts, just solely based on the fact that this person who I was speaking to was a lawyer, and I thought that, her opinion had some value. I'm not saying her opinion doesn't have value. All I'm saying is that, like, just because you think somebody is in like a position of authority or that they're smart, that doesn't mean that you should take their opinion or what they say over your own. And I just think like you should always do your own research. I see this happen like all the time with people and their parents, right? Okay, I understand you respect and love your parents, like as you should, right? But here's the thing, like just because you love and respect your parents doesn't mean that you should take everything of what they say at face value. And I see people do this all the time, especially when it comes to things like voting and politics, right? Like I understand that you respect your parents, but that doesn't mean that when it comes to things like politics and voting, that you can't come up with your own opinions about who you think is the best candidate for you, who you think is the best party for you. And so often I see people who are our age who just like, they value the opinion of their parents 100%, and they'll vote whatever way their parents vote, no matter what. And here's the thing, like, our parents' generation is completely different than ours. Like, when our parents were growing up, the only thing that they had to tell them what was going on in the world was either the newspaper or the news, right? And we live in a generation where there is like the technology information, right? There is so much access to technology or for information via technology. And I think that just as, so the younger generations are always quick adopters, right? The older generations are already slower adopters, right? So our parents think that everything that's on the news and everything that they read in the newspaper is the truth. And why wouldn't they? That's how they've always lived their lives. It's understandable, right? But the reality of it is that we have so much more access to information than just what you read in the newspaper and what you see in the news. And just as, like, think about how long it took your parents to use their iPhone or their cell phone when it was a new technology, right? And then think about how quickly you learned to use your iPhone or your computer. And then think about how quickly our kids have been able to adopt to these new technologies, right? So you have to think of our parents in the same way. Our parents still see the news as the true source of all information, okay? They are late adopters, okay? And so they think that everything that you see and you read on the news is truth. And the reality of it is it's not. Everything that you see has a spin, has a twist to it. And I'll give you another example. So the other day, I was actually flagged by Instagram for putting out false information. There was a video that basically said something along the lines of, just imagine that the news that you were getting wasn't telling you the truth. Like, how absurd is that to think that potentially the news that you see is not telling 100% of the truth? And so I made a comment on it and I said, well, the news are gatekeepers. And they flagged that comment and said that was false information. But here's the thing, it's factual. Go and look it up. I went to school for communications, and in Communications 101, I was actually tested on the term gatekeeping, okay? And gatekeeping, basically, the term means, it's a jargon, it's a media jargon that basically says the media chooses or gatekeeps what you see, but also what you don't see. So think about it. Like, if you're watching CNN, you're probably not going to see an article about how wonderful Trump is. And if you're watching Fox News, you're probably not going to see an article about how wonderful Biden is. And there's a reason behind that. And there's also money behind it, okay? And so all this to say, like, you have to open your eyes to what is going on in the world, right? You can't just believe everything that you're seeing on the internet. You also can't just believe everything that you are told by people who you think are valuable or are smart. You have to do your own research, because here's the thing, like, there's just so much misinformation that's going on out there. There's so much political funding to what you're seeing. Like, if you think about it, like, let's say you're a reporter and you work for Fox News and you want to do an expose on Joe Biden. Well, if you want to do an expose on Donald Trump, right? And you work for Fox News, okay? There are people out there who pay Fox News for them to run and also support Donald Trump as a presidential candidate. And so that in and of itself, as your job qualification and as a journalist, you should be able to report the news unbiased. That's how I was taught in school, that you're supposed to be unbiased as a news reporter. But the reality of it is that people are no longer unbiased because there's money and funding behind the bias of the news. And so it's just something to think about, that, like, when you're making decisions around pretty much anything, how you're going to raise your family, who you're going to vote for politically, where you're going to go to church. I mean, any decision that you have in life, you have to decide to be your own advocate, and you have to do your research. And don't just look at what you believe in, okay? Because here's the thing. On the internet, you can find something about any one of your beliefs, right? So, like, if you think that Donald Trump is the greatest guy in the world, and you go and look up an article that says, tell me all the ways that Donald Trump is the greatest president that ever existed, you're going to find that, right? Just as if you look it up and say, tell me all the ways that Donald Trump is the worst president that ever existed, you will also find articles that support that opinion. And so what I recommend doing is play devil's advocate. Ask questions. Be curious. Do your research before you form opinions about things. Don't just take the words or the opinions of someone that you find of value, whether that's someone that's a friend who's a lawyer and smart or genius, whether that's a neighbor, whether that's a police officer, whether that's the president of the United States. Like, that you have to do your own research, and also trust your intuition. Trust what your gut is telling you, because I think, and also, y'all, we got to have a little bit of common sense, okay? Like, some of these things are just common sense things. Like, I'll give you an example. So from the documentary, the fire, it was like an explosion, okay? So put two and two together. Like, if you think about these parents who've just lost their children, okay? And the police have come to you and said, oh, it was an electrical fire and it was just an accident, right? But you have eyewitnesses at the crime scene who are telling you that there was a massive explosion, and you see pictures of this fire, and it's like burning to the sky, like there was a propellant in it, right? You should start asking questions. Your common sense is going to tell you, well, why was the fire shooting to the sky? Was there gasoline that was close in there? Was there something in the building that could have acted as a fire propellant, or something that was highly flammable that would have caused an explosion like that? Because if the answer is no, you should be doing your research a little bit further into, well, then why was there fire to the sky, right? That doesn't make any sense, right? And basically what happened in the story is they wrote it off immediately as there, being no foul play, and that there was, that nobody had done anything. There was no arson, no suspicion of arson. But then you have eyewitness reports of people who say they smelled kerosene, right? So those are the types of things where I'm like, okay, if it's on fire, like, start to ask questions, okay? Like, I feel like people, especially in the political, atmosphere that we're in right now, like, things are on fire and they're just saying like, oh no, that's not really what it is. And, this and that, and make excuses. And it's like, no, you have to use a little bit of common sense and make it make sense. Anyway, I think people are blind to corruption in the world. And, my husband, he is from Honduras. And I mean, basically all of these South American countries that at one point in time were like, like wealthy countries, have been taken over by communism, right? And they've got this level of corruption that is so deep, and it runs through the government, and it runs through the police, and it runs through the cartels. Like, my husband and his brother, like, and pretty much all the businesses in Honduras are basically extorted, like almost every single week. And the gangs come to your house or come to your business and they collect money from you to not hurt your families, right? And the countries are horrible. Like, Honduras is known as the murder capital of the world. It's got wonderful people who live there, but there are also very, very bad, corrupt people who live there as well. And I think so many people think like, oh, that could never happen here. Like, the police could never be corrupt here. The government could never be corrupt here, but they are, and they're getting there. And what you don't understand is that if you start to only believe one side, and you start to only read the news for one side, and you start to, believe everything that you're told from one side, like, you are setting yourself up for a really, really dangerous place in this world. And let me tell you, people who have come from communism and people who have come from countries that are corrupt see how dangerous it is. It is so dangerous. It will make you poor. It will increase the crime of your country. It will, reduce your access to natural resources like electricity and food and water. I mean, it is totally invasive. And the sad part is, today, the people and their opinions have been stifled. And one thing that this country is built on is free speech. And the reality of it is that we don't have it anymore, because if you stand for Donald Trump, you're excommunicated. You are looked at as a bad person, and you are, people can't even say it. It's so wild that in the job environment, like, you can get on a call, talk about how you voted for Joe Biden and how wonderful he is and this and that. But, if you stand for something different, you'll be ostracized. You could potentially lose your job. And so the people on the other side don't speak anymore because they're afraid to speak. They're afraid for their families. They're afraid for their jobs. But here's the thing. Not allowing for people to have differing opinions is pushing us one step closer to communism, where they tell you how to think. And that's what the media is doing today, and they're doing a great job at it. They're telling you how to think, okay? They've been telling your parents how to think since the beginning of time. But we have to change. We have access to so much information that they no longer have that power anymore, which is why they're afraid and why they're doing things on the internet like, blocking your opinions, and writing your opinions that are facts as marking them as false information. And that is a dangerous, dangerous, dangerous slippery slope. And so, I think it's wonderful that people have differing opinions. You should have differing opinions. I think that it's wonderful that people have open debates, as you should. Change my mind. I will try to change yours, right? But for your own family, for yourself, do your research. Play devil's advocate. Don't believe everything you see on the internet. Don't believe everything you see on the news. Don't believe everything that your parents tell you. If somebody of authority tells you something that in your gut you think is just not right, follow your gut, okay? Because people in politics get paid to say certain things that it doesn't really matter if it actually is in the benefit of you or your family. So don't be collateral damage for their agenda. Think for yourself. Think on your feet. It's just a wild, wild world that we're living in, and it's scary. Like, the level of corruption is scary, and it is pervasive, and it will continue if we allow it to continue. So let's make it stop. Let's think for ourselves. Let's think on our feet. Let's have open debates and honest discussions with our friends and family. Let's do our research, and let's not follow in the footsteps of some of these countries who have made grave, grave mistakes that will never recover financially, economically, or for the safety. Like, you have to think about the safety of your children. And so when making some of these decisions that you're making, like, think about your children's safety. Think about a leader for a country who you think will make your children safe. Like, think about somebody who will make your family financially stable. Think about somebody who has the same morals and values as you do. Like, and then, Go and look at both sides of the field. See what the left are saying about them. See what the right is saying about them. Just do your research. That's all I'm saying. Just do your research, because it is a slippery slope to just blindly trust people. And I would say, don't do it anymore. Don't blindly trust anyone. And watch that documentary and you'll see why. Because corruption runs so deep, all the way to the top, to things that you think is just a conspiracy theory and you would never imagine it's even possible. It is happening. It's happening all over the world. Don't let it happen to us. Okay, I hope you guys have a good day. I'm gonna get dressed and go to my my daughter's Thanksgiving thing. Thanks for listening to my rant. I'm so passionate about some of these things, and when I see these documentaries, I just think like, wow, this is such a great example of how easily and quickly people can get duped and how corrupt, and follow the money. If you want to see corruption, look at where the money is coming from, and it'll point to who is corrupt. And let me tell you, the devil is at work in this world. The devil is at work in this world. He is paying people left and right to do his dirty work. And don't be caught up in the devil and his dirty work, okay? You guys do your research. You're smarter than that. Okay, y'all have a good day. Bye.